Hello, everyone. Regularly, we come across people who tell us that they wish they could stop the chatter in their own head, that there is so much noise and that they wish they could just delete their thoughts, could have no thoughts, that they want peace, that they want silence, and that they would like to have tools to stop this noise inside. And many times that is also the understanding of people of what meditation is. They believe that through meditation we can stop our thoughts and we can stop thinking, and that all this noise inside can stop and stop harassing them. But it is very useful to understand that thinking is natural for us. Just like breathing is natural for the body, thinking is natural for the mind. Experiencing, creating thoughts, having memories and images from the past come into our mind. That is natural actually that is a characteristic of life and of consciousness. One who is experiencing things, the functions of the mind are going on, and thinking is one of them. But when we think too fast, or when we think useless things, or maybe even negatively, or useless, maybe a good word, lots of useless thoughts, that is when the mind is used in a wrong way. Just like when we start breathing superficially or too fast, that is not a healthy way for the body. But breathing in itself is nothing wrong. So in the same way, to create thoughts is a natural process of one who is conscious, of one who is alive. But what kind of thoughts are being created? What do we have these repetitive and cyclical thoughts? Now, when we talk about stillness or silence, when we project that inwardly, because outwardly silence means absence of sound and stillness means absence of movement. When we project that inwardly, silence would not be absence of thoughts, but it would be only constructive thoughts, only noble thoughts, only enriching thoughts, only elevating thoughts. And stillness would not be there is no emotions, there are no feelings, there is absence of emotions. But the, stillness would mean there is no emotional roller coaster and all these up and down emotions. That there would be refined, solid, positive, and enriching emotions and feelings, like a constant, solid feeling of joy, for example, or a constant, solid feeling of courage or enthusiasm or love. So inner stillness means there is a reservoir of feelings that are refined and noble. And inner silence means there are constructive thoughts, there are positive thoughts, and there are noble and empowering and elevated thoughts. Because the mind is a function of the being of consciousness. The mind is a function of the soul, and it naturally produces thoughts. It naturally produces feelings. That is a sign of consciousness. That is a sign of life and awareness and consciousness. So we should not aim, or we don't aim to stop thinking, to stop feeling, to stop emotions. But silence means only refined thoughts and refined feelings. Now, for that, we need to know what is ruling our minds. And there are these two sides within us. One side is that pure angelic side of us, that peaceful, that peace-loving, that wise, that loving and compassionate, that secure, that joyful, playful, powerful being. But there are also these tendencies that have been entering in our consciousness over time that are not so angelic and that are maybe even completely the opposite of angelic. This little devil sitting here. The good news is that this little devil is not innate, it is acquired, and its roots are spiritual ignorance. More we are wise, more we are aware of the bigger spiritual picture, more we begin to understand our own innate truth and goodness and our own higher nature, and which is innate, more we know that all of that is acquired over time, and what is acquired we can let go again. Now, if this little devil uses the mind, then our emotions are like a roller coaster and our thoughts are just going all over the place. Fast thinking, useless thinking, cyclical thinking, destructive thinking. That is the product of when this little demon inside, these negative tendencies and this acquired nature based on spiritual ignorance, when that is using the mind, then there cannot be inner stillness. There cannot be silence. But when the little angel is using the mind, when we are firmly aware of the self as this non-physical, spiritual, innately divine self, aware of the immortality of the self as a soul, aware of the supreme Father, Mother, God, and the relationship with the Supreme. when we begin to understand that this physical world is a play, the soul comes to play a part. And we live in that awareness, that angelic nature flourishes. And then the mind will be used for refined thoughts, which usually are much slower, more powerful, enriching, and feelings will be likewise. So meditation is not about stopping the thoughts, suppressing the mind, suppressing our feelings and emotions, but rather it is letting the mind be used by our innate higher nature. So let us have some moments of practice, some moments of meditation. And so what this actually means is silence and stillness is natural for us. But we engage in interactions and in thinking that stimulates this little demon. And so this peace and this silence gets blocked. We allow these lower tendencies to use the mind. So once we stop that, we say, no, this is coming from spiritual ignorance. Once we start nurturing that higher nature and that perspective of self as a soul, a spiritual being, then the mind begins to be used in a more constructive way. And then quality of thoughts will change. Silence and stillness over time becomes natural. So let's take a few minutes to just take these basic steps. And those of you who are experienced in this, fine, it is always good to revise basics and to come back to basic natural experiences of spirituality. Just acknowledge our existence right here, right now, as a spiritual being, an invisible soul, a timeless, immortal being of consciousness. And this living, conscious, invisible experiencer is within this body for a temporary period of time, sitting behind the eyes. This is the present truth of each one of us. All of us are immortal, divine, spiritual beings, invisible. And the image we use to indicate the soul is of light, like a tiny star, timeless, living light. Sitting behind the eyes, using the eyes as windows. And this whole physical world is like a play. An extra game. The soul, the being of light, is a guest in this body. A guest in this physical world. And this guest has a home. Home is beyond this physical world. The dimension of silence, the dimension of light. And so just for a few moments, try and completely shift the attention away from this physical dimension. And come into that experience of the self as timeless, silent, living light. Pure, innocent, free. Peaceful, still light. And just try and hold this image. Tiny star in this endless expanse of stillness, of silence, of light, the soul world. Another dimension that we can experience through the mind. The dimension of matter is the dimension of sound, of movements, of objects, of bodies. But the home of souls is the dimension of stillness, of silence, of light, beyond. And just for a few moments, immerse the mind in just this silence and light, with a sense of recognition of this is natural and original. This is innate. before we entered the physical world, soul was here in the home, in this dimension of stillness. No need to create all these types of thoughts. Just eternal, immortal, peaceful soul. Thank you. Now, during the day, try every hour to take 1 minute and touch base with this essence and this peace and this stillness, natural nature, the awareness of the self as a soul. Every hour, 1 minute, and sit. Thank you. Have a good day.